Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. It has been a long time since we have come at you with any sort of YouTube content. 9-month-old is all I can say at this point. Just everything going on, trying to keep up with work, baby, house, life, everything, Jeep, truck, wife's car. Unfortunately, YouTube is just one of those things that has fallen to the back. That's not permanent by any means. We love doing this, but just trying to give a little bit of backstory on why it's been 5 or 6 months since we've done anything, updated you on the Jeep, anything like that. So that's the point of today. I like to do about one of these per year. And this is going to be the 2025 edition of a full, detailed, in-depth, every part on this thing walk around. A lot of stuff has changed. Today is September 6th of 2025, so we stretched it back in the spring. You may have caught some of that. If not, we'll go over kind of the nuts and bolts of it today, along with everything else we've done to our Jeep here. So stick around, this ought to be a good one. So in general, first things first, I apologize to the 10,000 or so of you that have probably seen plenty of content on this rig, but this video is for anybody that has not. And even if you have, maybe you'll learn something today that you didn't know. Anybody interested in building a TJ, this is really for you because this thing is set up awesome now. So we'll go over it in depth here, starting with the rig itself. The body, motor, drivetrain, frame, everything that came on a stock TJ is a 2004 Wrangler X. Again, an overview of the X is it is pretty much a base model with the 4-liter inline 6. It's the lowest trim you could get. Came with Dana 30, Dana 35 axles, which were highly undesirable. Kind of base model interior as well. No steering wheel controls or anything like that. But when we bought the thing, we knew we were going to be tinkering with it and basically gutting everything out from underneath it. On an off-road rig, you do not need cruise control, so literally no reason for us to get anything but a base model. But I did want the 4-liter, so that that does not allow you to get the super cheap SE version, which comes with the 4-cylinder. So this is a 2004. The paint is light khaki metallic, kind of a tannish beige color, paint code PJC. When we bought the thing, it was bone stock. It had 31-inch all-terrains on it that somebody had done, and I believe it had a tiny bit of a coil spacer, maybe a 1/2 inch to 1 inch on the front to level it out and clear the 31s. Other than that, the thing had never been touched. So that's a little bit about the rig itself. We bought this Jeep in 2019, so I've had it right around 6 years now, actually a little bit over. Clearly a lot of stuff has changed. While we're at it, drivetrain, it's got the original NV3550 5-speed manual transmission. Transfer case has been changed, so we put in a 241 OR out of a Rubicon model, and what that gives you is basically a 4-to-1 gear ratio versus the 2.72, something like that, that comes in the stock cases in X, SE, Sports, all that kind of stuff. So motor's bone stock's got an intake on it just to clear the high lines, but wanted to go ahead and hit the drivetrain real quick while we were talking about the rig itself. So from here on, a lot of people go front to back, back to front, down to up, up to down. I kind of like to group it together. So we already hit drivetrain. I guess the first thing you'll notice on this thing is that it is obviously lifted. So we're gonna do kind of suspension slash stretch first, and then talk about some of the smaller accessories. So suspension on this thing is a Rock Crawler X Factor long arm kit. This is the old style long arm from Rock Crawler that does not have the flush belly pan. This belly pan is the one I wanted anyway, that comes with the straight links. It actually hangs down about 1.5 to 2 inches below the frame rail here. A lot higher than many other skid plates. And I have seen this system do well on so many Jeeps for so long that I always wanted it. And they actually don't make them anymore. I got one of the last ones they had just sitting on the shelf. So links are Rock Crawler, skid is Rock Crawler, rear truss on the rear axle for the triangulation is Rock Crawler. Pretty much all the suspension is Rock Crawler. So this is their triangulated 4-link rear, 3-link in the front. There's your 2 lowers and your 1 driver's side upper that you probably can't see on camera. It's on the driver's side. So 3-link front, 4-link rear, nice beefy arms. There's your truss for the triangulated uppers. It welds onto the rear axle, and then you get your triangulation playing out and tying into this center section here. So that's kind of the platform for the suspension on this thing. As far as springs, we've got 4.5-inch springs in here, also from Rock Crawler. It's what they call kind of their triple rate spring. You can't really see it very well on these springs. Some are very tightly wound up top, kind of like the metal cloak, where they're almost flush with each other on the top rings of the spring there. These aren't like that. But we're on 4.5-inch springs. And I think that's pretty much it for suspension. There's your upper driver's side link for the triangulated, or excuse me, for the 3-link front section. And all that goes back and ties into that same belly pan. So nice and clean. So with the Rock Crawler suspension and long arm, probably the next thing you'll hopefully notice on this thing is it's a little longer than a stock TJ. So a stock TJ comes at 93.5 inches. We stretch to 100 inches, and it's all in the rear except for pushing the front forward about 1 inch. No special parts really to do that. I basically just lengthened the front links as far as I could until I had crashing issues. Basically, your track bar starts hitting the diff, your tie rod starts hitting the diff cover, and you have other sorts of issues up here with more than about a 1 to 1.5 inch stretch, unless you do something with the steering box. What gives you your rear stretch is, first off, it's a combination of things, but the most noticeable obviously is the coil spring has to be moved back on the frame so you can relocate the axle. This is a kit from Barnes Foil Drive. It is a spring relocation bracket kit. It allows you to basically notch your frame, weld on these reinforcing plates, and then weld on this new spring bucket onto that. So therefore, moving your coil spring back really however much you want it. People I know run these up to probably 8 or 9 inches of rear stretch, and that's about all you can get and still fit a shock tower on the stock frame and everything without having to back half and do coilovers. And so obviously, along with moving the coils back, you have to outboard your shocks, or at least it's highly recommended to. So we just use a 12-inch travel Bilstein and Frenched in these towers from Poly Performance. It's kind of what a lot of TJ folks seem to gravitate towards on the forums and stuff. So I went with Poly towers, seem to be doing well. So there's your 5-inch stretch, springs back, shocks back. Obviously, it comes with having to have longer rear links, and when I did the long arm, I did the stretch at the same time and custom ordered these links, the exact length that we needed from Rock Crawler. Very good to work with. They just literally made these for us. I sent them links, and they fabbed them up, put joints in them, and shipped them to us. Obviously, these lowers take an absolute beating, as expected with long arm systems. And as you can see in here, the other component you will obviously need is a lengthened rear drive shaft. That's an Adams. They custom made it for us because mine takes a little bit of custom mounting due to having the Rubicon transfer case in there. It has a flange on the back instead of your typical yoke, so we have to have a flange, and then it goes to a double cardan joint, and then it's about 5.5 inches longer than a stock drive shaft for a TJ, and then a 1310 joint on the axle instead of a 1330, or else I could just use a Rubicon drive shaft. While we're on the stretch, the other component you will need is something to do with the gas tank. That's the major problem you run into when you move the axle back. Obviously, the stock tank is going to be in the way, so you can either go to a fuel cell or you can run a aftermarket special gas tank, kind of a stretch tank deal. Luckily, Genrite has made one for years, and so we went with the crawler tank. It's 19 gallons, just like factory. And it basically relocates your gas tank backwards and also has a little notch right there. It's very well designed so that your diff cover clears at full stuff. So we are running the Genrite crawler tank in the rear, 19 gallons. Along with the Genrite crawler tank, we went with their billet aluminum filler neck, because if not, you would just have the factory filler kind of crammed up in here, which funny enough people do, nothing wrong with it, but we were going for kind of a clean look, and that thing tucks nice behind the shock tower and up out of the way. So that's our gas tank setup. So a brief overview again of the wheelbase stretch. Most of it is in the rear. The 1 inch in the front is basically just lengthen your front links until you hit crashing issues. Usually they are with the track bar and the diff, or the tie rod and the diff cover, due to the factory steering box not being able to move with the axle, so that starts getting into interference issues. So we're stretched about 1 inch in the front, barely even noticeable, and then 5.5 in the rear. As you can see, that rear tire is about 1.5 to 2 inches shy of being completely flush with the back of that tub. So my overhang is basically nothing. Makes it really nice on the trail. So that's the stretch. Rock crawler springs again, front and rear 4.5 inches. Bilstein 12-inch travel shocks. Outboarded Barnes spring relocation. Genrite tank. And the armor back here to move, basically make the body look right again, is all Moto built products, as is everything we run pretty much. So these are Moto built's stretch corners. I had them paint matched. The khaki color looked really clean, other than the damage on the fender flare from, I believe, Merlin at Hawk Pride. But yeah, all that's Moto built. Stretch corners, stock flares trimmed to fit. Watch the stretch video if you want to know a little more detail about all that. So there's your wheelbase stretch. So that's suspension, stretch, all about the wheelbase. So next we'll go to the meat and potatoes of what holds this thing together, which is the axles, wheels, and tires. We are running Fusion 4x4 Dana 44s front and rear. They call theirs the Elite 44. That's just their marketing name on them. It's basically a East Coast Gear Supply Dana 44 housing. Fusion takes it and kind of adds their own twist to it, welding the tubes all nice and good. They have their own diff cover They may do a couple things additional to what East Coast does, but it's basically an East Coast housing, and Fusion takes them and kind of puts their own little spin on it, and I thought they were nice and knew a few other people that had them, so that's what we went with. In the front, we've got RCV 30 spline axle shafts. These C's are humongous. All the bracketry on here is 1/4 inch, and we are not using the passenger side upper link mount. Obviously with the 3-link we do not need it. Did not cut it off just to save myself the headache, and there's no clearance issues with it being there, so it's really not hurting anything being there. In both axles we're running Eaton E-lockers. That's my locker of choice. They've been very, very, very reliable, and that's what you want out of a locker. There's your wire coming out of the chunk, and it runs up to a switch inside, and you've got instant traction. No air compressor, no hose to puncture or get a hole in on the trail. Very happy with my Eatons. So in both axles, as well as in Eaton, we're running 488 gears. That is something that if I could go back, I would probably opt for 513s just to get a little more power out of this thing. The 488s work fine, especially having the Rubicon case in there with the 4-to-1. But that's just a small thing. If I could do it again, I'd probably get the 513s. So in the front, we had RCVs in an Eaton. In the rear, you basically just have 4340 chromoly 30 spline and an Eaton as well. The gears they use, I believe, are Revolution. There's the back side of your rock crawler truss. Don't mind the welds. I got some fairly pretty welds some places in here, like on the shock towers and all that, but when I was tacking this truss on, trying to make it strong, so I ran 3 or 4 passes along some of those huge tie points like that. So axles are Fusion Dana 44s. Wheels and tires, we are on 38 1350 Nitto trail grapplers on a 17x9 KMC Grenade crawl. That's a true beadlock. It's got, I believe, 24 or 28 bolts per wheel. I think it's 24. It is by far the best looking wheel on the market, and nothing has even come close to it that I've seen yet. Just the black, kind of the matte satin black finish on the wheel, and then the aluminum bead ring, and then the gold bead bolts. I just don't know how anybody's ever gonna one up this wheel as far as looks. And as you can tell, they have been quite abused, put through the ringer, and they perform just as good as they look. Been very tough. They get drugged through rocks on the East Coast all the time. East Coast wheeling's quite different than West Coast. We're in tight trails with boulders on either side, squeezing through ruts and stuff, so your wheels are definitely gonna get destroyed. But that's one good thing about having this kind of aluminum ring. It hides a lot of that versus if that was painted. While we're back here, just kind of look at the passenger side. Barnes relocation bracket and your outboarded shock. This side had the evap on it, which I managed to keep. I deleted the charcoal canister. The charcoal is in line somewhere in this tube. You pull the charcoal canister, pull one tube, and then take this tube here that was going to the charcoal canister and loop it right back to the little purge valve here, and you get no engine codes at all. I know that's a big controversy online. Everybody's always asking what to do with the evap because the stock later model TJs had this big, huge canister right here. And you can't really open the wheel well up for a stretch or anything, or even bigger tires with that canister there. So mine is gone. Nice clean look back there to fit these, to me, massive 38 1350 Nitto trail grapplers. This is the newest thing we have done to the Jeep. We had been on 37's for about 3 years, and we stepped up to these nice meaty 38's. They're still pretty new. You can see the bottom of the little hairs that come on the treads there. So that's wheels, tires, axles. I guess now we will kind of start hitting some of the more simple stuff, and we'll go front to back. Got a Warren VR Evo 8S with synthetic rope, plenty of power to pull this little TJ. I would not pull a 1-ton truck with it, but it does the job for what we need it to. Got a factor 55 fair lead and a, I can't remember the name of this thing now. Flat link. It's the Flat Link E with a rope guard on it. So all that sits on a Moto-Built stubby bumper that has also seen some rocks. Still looks pretty good, at least for a rattle can job. Steering, we're running the Curry Correct link from Rock Jock with the tie rod is actually not from the Rock Jock system. It is from Black Magic Brakes. It is a solid chromoly bar. It's been heat treated. The Curry system steers, handles really well and everything, but I kept bending tie rods. I think I went through 2 or 3 of them back to back, it seemed like. So we ditched that. The Curry bar is a hollow unit. This is a solid bar that allows you to mount it right to your Curry Correct link system. It's a pretty cool design from Black Magic Brakes. On that, we're running a PSC full hydro assist setup. They've got the steering gear, the power steering pump, the reservoir, all the lines and fittings and hoses, and then the ram that mounts right there. And this ram mount is also from Black Magic Brakes. It allows you to run the hydro assist on the Correct link steering. It's worked really well. This thing steers great, even locked up in a rock garden, both lockers on, it still steers awesome. So the track bar we're using, since we go to the 3-link in the front for the rock crawler system, I wanted an extra beefy track bar because that's basically the only thing holding your axle in place. With a 3-link, you don't have any sort of triangulation or anything, so you really need a really strong track bar mount. That's a Clayton unit. You get the Clayton double shear track bar bracket along with the track bar itself. It's got a beefy Johnny joint in the frame end and then a normal bushing in the other end. So that's your track bar and your steering. Moto-Built bumper, we already said that. Anti-rock, my Rock Jock in the front for a front sway bar. Bilstein 11-inch or so travel shocks up here. I believe that's about what they are. They may be closer to a 12. Brake lines were from the original build. I put Rubicon Express on right when I got it, and those are the stainless braided lines from that original lift kit. As I'm sure you already noticed too, the Jeep has been highlined. These are Moto-Built's 2-inch highline fenders. These are the old style. They don't make these anymore that have this big M and everything on the side. The new design is basically the same fender, but they now offer it in aluminum, and they now offer a different design for the little vent there. I don't really mind this, but I do think the new one looks better. So Moto-Built 2-inch highlines. I get a lot of questions online and on Facebook and everything about these fenders, and everything is Moto-Built. You can still get one that looks just like this. So these were powder coated black, and as you can tell, they've been on a while too. They're starting to get a little dingy looking. Moto-Built aluminum inner fenders, and we'll pop the hood in a minute and show you how everything's mounted. But all the fenders, armor, everything other than the rear bumper, which will probably be the last thing we talk about on the exterior, is Moto-Built. Looks really good. I'm based out of central Alabama, kind of central north, and Moto-Built is out of South Alabama, so they're only about 2.5 to 3 hours away from me, so I like buying local parts. And when they look this good, there's no reason to buy anything else. This right here, tucked behind the grill, is just the cooler for the power steering system. There's a PSC unit as well. Headlights are truck light LEDs with blacked out grill rings, or bezels, whatever you call them, that go around the headlights. Kind of completed the khaki on black look for this thing that I'm going for. that's pretty much it on the front. You got some rigid pods up there. They're kind of out of style at this point. Everybody seems to be running more of the Baja design stuff, but they work fine for this. Got my banner up there sporting the channel. So from there, I guess we'll start moving back slowly. Front drive shaft is also an Adams while we're standing here. We already hit on the rear. Front is just a stock TJ length Adams 1310 drive shaft. So for rocker guards, these are from Motobuilt as well. These are the stretch version. They basically fit from like a 2 or 3 inch stretch to anything you want. They basically move this line back here from about where it was from the factory. It moves that back and just kind of makes that a clean curve that ties in with the Motobuilt stretch corners. Rear flares are also Motobuilt. We've kind of talked about that. You can see I'm still rubbing some on the very back here, but very minimal. This Jeep came with full hard doors. We still have them. They're in excellent condition. I always wanted the half doors though, so I searched and searched on Marketplace until we found a set that was in good shape, and I went and got them. They were actually white, and they're off of like a 99, so nothing matched. The interior panels didn't match. So we took them apart, had the outsides paint matched khaki, and I paint matched the inner panels myself, and now they look like they were there from the factory. The top we're running is a Best Top Trek top in the black diamond. I've always wanted the slant back look. It's my favorite look for a TJ. So we have had that on for a long time now. If you've seen any of our videos, it's the same top we've always had. I've leaned it over into some trees. Got a few little nicks here and there, but no leaks. Rear windows are a little tinted. That's the way it comes. I like the way that looks. So that's the top. Everything is Best Top. We do have matching door uppers for the half doors that are also the black diamond that match the top perfectly. So rockers, fenders, top, stock mirrors. Move on to the back here. This is the only piece of armor we have that's not Motobuilt, and this is from Barnes. I think Motobuilt makes something similar, but it may be a newer product or something. We've had this Barnes for a hot minute, so I kind of wanted a simple, plain looking bumper that also provides a little bit of structure. And so this little slim, stubby bumper from Barnes was just what I wanted. Motobuilt corners you can see wrap around. I notched them for the factory tailgate latches. Tail lights on the build are Max Built Trail Tail LEDs. Got a little scuff here already. We matched it with the tailgate armor, or the under tailgate armor from Motobuilt, whatever that piece is called. So it all kind of ties in. A tag relocation bracket to move it to the center of the tailgate. And that's pretty much it for the back. Just aesthetics, really, nothing crazy back here. Main thing was trimming these Motobuilt stretch corners out to work with our new 100-inch wheelbase, but everything tied together perfectly. I'm really happy with it. Coming under the hood now, basically what you'd see if you open the hood of any stock 97 to 06 TJ, minus the air intake from K&N, which I'm honestly not a huge fan of. It's pretty noisy. But with the Motobuilt Highlines and everything, it's near impossible to keep your factory intake. So cold air intake. And this is really the only other aftermarket thing in here is the PSC reservoir. As you can see, there's your drain line to your pump. Here's the line coming in back into the resi from the steering gearbox down here. And that is basically all that's under here that is not factory, minus all the rat's nest wiring back there for rock lights and such. Hopping inside, really nothing exciting. Looks like a stock 90s Chrysler interior. I do have a Smitty built cage in here. basically a bolt-in unit. I got that before I had welding capabilities, and just haven't felt the need to replace it yet. If anybody has a lead on a poison spider cage though, the old poison spider units, I would be happy to take you up on that. I've always liked those. But that's from Spinny-Built. Rock Hard makes something pretty similar. That's just a GoPro mount for dash cam footage on the trail. We're running bar tacked black seat covers and some PRP 4-point harnesses in here. There's your 5-speed shifter, nothing crazy there. I do like my locker switches. Got rock light spotters and then front and rear lockers in kind of the factory switch panel right there, as you'd see on the Rubicon. Stock 4-wheel drive shifter, still the stock seats. I would like some PRPs, but these are actually pretty comfortable, and just haven't got the nerve up to spend the money. Little bar tack thing over there just to hold my wife's stuff when she's in here, and I've also got the winch remote in there. Pretty much it in here. Spiderweb shade. Got it on sale Black Friday for literally like 50 bucks. So definitely nothing crazy in here. Quadratec floor mats. These little units to mount the lap belt portion of the harnesses are from Rock Hard, as is the harness bar. All that's just bolt in though. No fab work or anything required for that. Everything else is pretty stock. I kind of like the look of a stock interior. Stock steering wheel. So that's pretty much it, guys. As you can see, got a TJ on 38's that's at a 100-inch wheelbase, Rock Carla long arm, Fusion 44 axles, KMC grenade bead locks. That's the premise of the build. There's nothing crazy on this thing, but it did take some fab work, and it does take just some common mechanical knowledge to piece these things together like this. But wanted to hit on the differences between the short arm and the long arm real quick before we end this video. Before we went to the Rock Crawler long arm, I was on Rubicon Express short arms with 4.5-inch springs for probably about 3 or 4 years, and I never bought into the long arm hype. I'll be the first one to say I kind of backed up short arms. And if you don't do extreme stuff where you've got ledges and undercuts and all that type of trails, then a short arm is just fine. I still believe that. But for the type of wheeling we do, I just have to vouch for these long arm units. Having that extra length on your arms basically allows your front end, when you're trying to climb a ledge or something, instead of trying to pop up it like that, it just crawls over, and the ride is so much better on and off road. Another myth is that these are noisy with kind of the Heim type joints in the frame and the axle end. This one makes zero noise, no squeaks, no chirps, no clacking. As soon as we finished up the stretch, I took it to the gas station, and the first thing that I noticed is just how much smoother the thing rides on the street. It literally feels like you're in my truck or some sort of Cadillac or anything like that. I mean, it's so just floaty and spongy, and I don't know what made the bigger difference, if it was the wheelbase or if it was changing up the geometry with the long arms. I have a feeling it was the geometry more than anything, but this kit rides so well. You could put one of these Rock Crawler long arms on and just drive on the street and it's worth it. But if you take this thing off road, it is a immediate difference between this thing and a short arm kit. So very, very, very happy with where the build is at right now. Don't plan to change anything very soon. I do have a couple parts and some thoughts in mind for stretching the front. We actually went and grabbed a T&T front stretch kit that gives you that 3 or 4 inches. It basically moves your steering box and allows that crashing we were talking about earlier with your steering and your track bar not to be a problem anymore. So that is on the horizon. It's not on the very distant horizon, I guess. It's far out. We're entering wheeling season right now, so this thing is about to just see a bunch of trail time, which is what I'm excited for the most. So that's a full wrap up on our Jeep. I think I hit just about every part on here, at least that matters to you guys and that I get asked about. So right, guys, that's going to do it for this one. Thanks again for watching. Stay tuned for Instagram content. Thanks for being a part of the Everyday Off-Road TJ page on Facebook. Keep a watch for more videos. Starting to slow down in life just ever so slightly, so hope to start cranking these things out again. And with wheeling season on the horizon, I think we will be able to do that for sure. Appreciate it again. If you got any questions, drop in the comments. Find me on the Facebook page. I answer questions on there all the time, and we'll see you in the next video.